You got to be kidding me. Sometimes the punishment just doesn't fit the crime.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into another edition of Southwest Bias, presented by our friends at the Husband and Wife Law Team. If you've had a serious injury, call the Husband and Wife Law Team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at husbandandwifelawteam.com. And we are live from Studio K. Got the point right. Brought to you by our friends at Circle K. Become a member of the Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app for free. One of my favorite Christmas movies, and something that I watch every holiday season, is Die Hard. You all know the movie. John McClane flies from New York to L.A. to see his estranged wife and kids for Christmas. He goes to the holiday party at his wife's company at Nakatomi Plaza, and then all hell breaks loose. He's got to stop an attack at the building. But the thing is, he's not really a hero. John McClane is really an anti-hero. No pure altruism. He's actually helping through instinct, stubbornness. He's just a guy that you wind up rooting for, even though he's not necessarily all that likable as a person. He's the anti-hero. But Hans Gruber, full-fledged villain in this movie. One of the best villains of all time in action movies. Horrible person. Does things just because he wants to. And is really a complete and utter villain. This is a cycle that continues to happen. Anti-hero villain. Whether it's movies, whether it's TV shows, whether it's real life, whether it's sports. And this weekend, Suns fans got a front row seat for the anti-hero versus the villain. Jose Alvarado starts a skirmish with Mark Williams over next to nothing. Then proceeds to swing on Mark Williams and connect with closed fist to the jaw. A legit punch in an NBA game. Mark Williams, twice his size, barely feels the punch even though it hits him in the jaw. But he doesn't really swing back. He more swats at the little pest to get off of him, to go away, to leave him the hell alone because guess what? Jose Alvarado doesn't want that actual smoke. Let's be honest. And Jose Alvarado is the villain. He is an NBA villain. He pulls this crap in a different way than a lot of other guys. He's legit just unnecessary in what he does. He's pulled this crap with the Suns before. He's on the level of Pat Beverly, a guy that you actually question why the league is letting him get away with this stuff. On the other side of the coin, you've got the Phoenix Suns. They're anti-heroes. Let's be honest. They are flawed. They are stubborn. They have a track record that isn't necessarily schoolboys. They've got some mud on the shoes. They get dirty. Let's be honest. But they're not villains. I mean, I know that Dylan likes to joke that he's the villain. We call Colin Villain Jr., but they're not true villains. They're not the Hans Grubers of the NBA. They're not the group that crosses that line in a way that Jose Alvarado did the other night, fairly unprovoked. Sure, Mark gave him a little shove after he kind of ran into Mark. But the Suns are calculated in the way they approach it. They're hard-nosed. They're tough. They're annoying as hell. Let's be honest about that. Maybe sometimes there's hard fouls, but it does not cross the line. Grayson Allen has questionable stuff. But again, hard fouls. Not taking unnecessary, full-fledged, closed-fist swings at somebody. The Suns are the anti-heroes, and that's why I think they are getting painted in a certain light. They're getting painted in a way that Jose Alvarado deserves to be. But I really think it's why the punishment in this case does not fit the crime. Jose Alvarado got 2 games. 2 games for closed fist to the jaw, actual swing. I'm not sure that's the precedent that the NBA wants to set. Because guess what? Somebody like Mark Williams, who wasn't the instigator, didn't really try to do much to defend himself outside of pushing Jose Alvarado off him and kind of swinging his arm to get him off. Why, if you're an NBA player and you know the punishment between you and the guy that swung on you with a closed fist and connected with your jaw is 1 game, why wouldn't you swing back? Now, that's just not who the Suns are as anti-heroes, but it makes you wonder why you wouldn't cross that thin line that separates an anti-hero from a villain. Because Jose Alvarado deserved like 5 games for that. Let's be honest. And Mark Williams, I agree, deserved a 1-game suspension because he shoved, he got in there, and I understand that he was defending himself, but you're setting a precedent there. But instead with Jose Alvarado, you just let him get away with it, essentially. You say, you know what? Punch a guy. It's only going to cost you 2 games. Full-fledged punch a guy. In fact, rear back and swing. It's only 2 games, even if you connect with him. Everybody wants to sit there and go, we need the basketball of the 80s back. We don't need the basketball of the 80s back. It was ugly basketball. And fighting is just ridiculous in an NBA game. Mark Williams probably could have ended Jose Alvarado if he really swung on him and swung down. And the suspensions are ridiculous to me. And this take, I want to bring this up from Justin Termini of NBA Radio, Sirius XM NBA Radio, who is Eddie Johnson's co-host, by the way, a guy that puts up with our friend Eddie on a daily basis. But he had this to say in a tweet. He said, credit to Jose Alvarado for going at someone bigger than him while the guy was looking. Much different than all the Draymond fights where he's either going at a smaller guy or guys who aren't looking. This is a real tough guy, apparently not a fake one. Really? Really? Swinging at Mark Williams makes him a real tough guy? Swinging at Mark Williams knowing that if he defends himself in that case, he understands what's going to happen? That's not a real tough guy. You want to be a tough guy? Go meet Mark Williams outside the locker room where the only thing that would stop him is the law. All right? That's a real tough guy. You want to start a fight on an NBA court, you know exactly how that's going to go. You want to swing on him? That's not tough. You know the refs are probably going to break it up before he gets a chance to break your skull. He's a guy that should be suspended for multiple games. Because Jose Alvarado is a real villain in the NBA. And the Suns are anti-heroes. And I think that the NBA refs are confusing them for villains. And that's why the punishment continues to be against the Suns and not getting calls against the opponents. But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. We welcome in the temporary mustache and beard behind the Mac. It's Noah. Noah, how are you today, my friend?
Not too shabby. Doing well.
You're a Pistons fan. I think we can admit that. Malice in the Palace.
Yep.
As a Pistons fan, isn't that embarrassing that that's one of the things that is part of your legacy?
To be honest with you, I kind of like it.
At least that's a real brawl. Guys actually swung back at each other.
Yeah. I don't know. I think looking back on it, it could definitely be like an embarrassing moment. I think if I was in that moment at that time and like doing this job and covering that team, I would probably feel that way about it. But as just a fan and somebody who's just like, that's more of a story, like I don't quite remember it happening live.
Yeah.
But
I remember I was at a college party and somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, come look at this." And it was just the full-fledged fight. You were probably a fetus then.
I was just a little tiny kid. All I knew was Ben Wallace had a big afro and I liked him.
The suspensions in that, were insane. And then if I'm one of those guys, I get it. It's spilled into the crowd. It's a little different. But if I see a guy getting 2 games for a full-fledged punch, I'm probably going, man, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, especially when you think about a similar situation in the NFL, DK Metcalf punching the Lions fan. He got 2 games and a lot of money taken away. And like 2 games, if you were to like average it out to like NFL season to NBA season, would be like 9 or maybe 10 games of NBA time.
Yep.
For something like that.
And a lot more money.
Yeah, and he punched a fan.
Yeah. It cost Jose Alvarado a little over $50,000. It's costing Mark Williams $36,000 for being suspended today. So Mark Williams has to pay the fine for getting tossed and then loses his money for today's game, all because Jose Alvarado decided to be a little punk. I think that's pretty ridiculous. One other interesting part that I saw because of this, you know who handed out the suspension there, Noah?
No, I do not.
Do we have that graphic? It's the press release about this, and it goes through all the punishments. And it was announced today by James Jones, Executive Vice President and Head of Basketball Operations for the NBA. Now, I'm not implying that there's anything nefarious here. I just think it's kind of weird that James Jones, a man that the Suns parted ways with back in June, actually beginning of July, so 6 months ago, is now doling out punishment to his previous employer that let him go and semi-unceremoniously. Seems like one of those where maybe you just say that the deputy head of basketball operations or somebody else handed down the punishment. It struck me as weird. Again, I think James Jones is a good person. I don't think it was petty by any way. It just is a weird optic in a league where constantly you hear, "Oh my gosh, it's rigged. It's scripted. All these things happen." And then you've got a guy who essentially was fired. They let his contract run out, but was demoted from GM before he got fired or before he got let go, is handing down this. That does not do anything to make you feel any less like the NBA is scripted. Noah, does that not seem semi-fishy to you?
It is kind of funny. It's almost like he's probably sitting there like, you know what? You guys kind of let me go. Let's take him away from you for a game.
Or he's like, lessen the Jose Alvarado thing just to really piss off those fans that didn't like me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I was one of those. I rarely say this, but I'm going to say it. Kilmus Reximus, or Killer Rex, as he goes by, makes a pretty good point here. He says the suspension is a blessing. Give Mark an extra day off after his first back-to-back. If the Suns can't beat the Wizards without him, they're bums. I agree. Best case scenario you could have is Mark Williams has to sit out against the lowly Washington Wizards. And that is all right. If there was going to be a time for him to sit out, it's this. And yeah, he played his first back-to-back games Friday and Saturday for the first time since 2023. So to me, I'm fine with it. But the optics are insane. Mesa, Kev from Mesa, who I can see, you're not shadow banned to me, Kev. Says, weird, so rigged and scripted. Do you believe that, Noah? Do you think this is a scripted league?
I don't. I mean, I think there's certain times where you can like maybe point out a couple of times. I don't know. It's hard to say it's scripted, but when you have so many moving pieces all the time and players, like it would be out way more frequently if it was.
Yeah, it's not scripted. This isn't WWE. That doesn't mean I don't think they put their thumb on the scale every once in a while and they don't get out of their own way.
Agree with you there.
Excuse me, losing my voice here. They don't get out of their own way. Get all choked up when the NBA screws the Suns. They don't get out of their own way, though. The James Jones thing doesn't help. Kara saying you need a center to beat the Wizards comfortably. I don't think you do.
No.
I mean, you're the biggest SAR hater back there.
Yeah, that guy needs to go work at McDonald's.
I mean,
These buns.
If the Wizards keep it up, he might be. I mean, he'll be serving buns rather than playing like buns out there. So I think this was a ridiculous weekend. I think Jose Alvarado is a joke of a player. And I think the Phoenix Suns are going to get so many bad calls against them this year because of the fact that the NBA just keeps confusing them for being the bad guys, despite them playing basketball the right way. They play physical. They play hard-nosed. They play tough defense, but they don't cross that line. They don't turn into these guys taking cheap shots. And I know people say, well, what you see what Brooks did to Steph Curry? He didn't punch him. He didn't swing at him. Was it dumb? Sure, it was dumb. But, you know, LeBron did more to him the previous game, and LeBron didn't get anything. They went right after Dylan Brooks because of, the perception. They're anti-heroes. They're blue-collar boys. They're people that are going to get their hands dirty, but not in a way that's dangerous. That's who the Phoenix Suns are, and the NBA's got to get used to it. Because that's how they're winning. That's how they're 5 games over 500. How they might go 6 games over 500 tonight against the Wizards is because of those anti-heroes. Jose Alvarado deserved a hell of a lot more than 2 games. We'll talk about a lot more right after this break here on Southwest Bias. Project that you've wanted to do, renovating something in your house. I know I've had that thought for a long time, looking at bathrooms, looking at other areas in the house. And you probably go, well, Espo, Window Depot, they're just going to be able to do my windows. It's not true. They can actually do windows, doors, skylights, cabinets, sinks, countertops, tons of inventory on things other than windows. They've been serving Arizona since 2002. So you know that they know how to take care of you. That's 23 years, almost 24 years in business here in the Valley, and they've got the best prices and biggest inventory when it comes to your home improvement. And the best part, they have in-house designers that you can use free of charge so they can bring your vision to reality. It's super easy. So visit thewindow.com and get started today on your next project and tell them Espo sent you, and they'll say, who? Phoenix Raceway. Ring, ring, ring. That's right. Racing is back this spring. If you have not been out to Phoenix Raceway, you do not know what you're missing. And for the first time ever, NASCAR and NTT IndyCar are going to be racing on the same weekend. That's right, the same weekend out at Phoenix Raceway, and you're going to get a front row seat for it all. You want the best access in motorsports? You're going to get inside the garage. You're going to be able to walk the track. You're going to be able to see the drivers and catch the pre-race concert, all by just being inside the Desert Diamond Casino's infield experience. It's that easy. Get a ticket there. You're going to have the best experience you've ever had at a sporting event. I've done it, and you're going to want to do it too. And you can watch the 2025 Cup Series champion Kyle Larson return to where he won the championship back in November. So why wouldn't you want to do that? NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series weekend, March 5th through the 8th. Secure your tickets now at the link in our description. A little more Suns talk before we move on to what was an abysmal weekend, at least on the gridiron for the Cardinals. The NBA All-Star voting fan returns have come out. And the Phoenix Suns have nobody in the top 10 of the West, and only Devin Booker at number 15. He's only had 100,000 or 121,000 votes. Phoenix Suns are 5 games over 500. Phoenix Suns are the biggest surprise in the NBA this year. And Devin Booker only has 121,000 votes. Now, I don't put that on all of the rest of the NBA, but I do put that a little bit on Suns fans. Where's the support for this guy who's going out there and averaging almost 26 points, 6.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds? I get it. It's not shooting great from 3. But Devin Booker has evolved his game to do everything when it comes to the Phoenix Suns and whatever they need. It's the old I'll do it mentality, and he's living up to it yet again. But fans across the NBA aren't necessarily going to realize that. But Phoenix Suns fans need to come out in droves and vote for this guy. If the Suns don't have an all-star, it's going to be a true shame. And yeah, I don't understand really how this new format's going to work. U.S. versus world, 3 U.S. teams, 1 world team, 8 guys per. I don't get it. I don't fully understand how it's going to work, but the Suns deserve at least 1 all-star in Devin Booker and potentially 2 with Dillon Brooks, because what he's done on both ends of the court has been spectacular. And they should have a representative in All-Star Saturday, but who the hell cares when it comes to All-Star Saturday? That's the graveyard of NBA events right now. All of them are. Nothing is spectacular in that, but it would be nice to have a little representation because the Suns are doing something that nobody expected. And isn't that exactly what an all-star is somebody that has raised their game and their team to levels that people did not think were possible? Devin Booker has done that. Dillon Brooks has done that. And fans should be supporting that. And I hope when the commissioner has to make his picks and this new cockamamie approach to the All-Star game, he recognizes that. Dillon Brooks deserves a spot on that international team. Yes, he's Canadian. We forget that. I've never known a Canadian villain. And supposedly Dillon is your typical Canadian off the court. But on the court, we forget sometimes that he's Canadian. He should be part of that international team. But the fact that the Suns have guys, only have Devin Booker at 15, and you have guys like, let's be honest, James Harden, Anthony Davis, they don't deserve to be ahead of Devin Booker. Lauri Markkanen is right behind Devin Booker in voting. Get out there and vote for these guys. They deserve to have better. They deserve to be supported better. And the Suns deserve to have somebody represent them in this All-Star weekend. It's still a while. You're right, Kev. There's still a lot of time. And yes, Austin, Denny Advia, I think, is like 7th in that voting. That's a little high as well for Portland, who isn't doing much. They're not really, they're not where the Suns are. Let's be honest on that. Austin says the Blazers are now 6 games below 500. Yeah. Denny Advia is getting the international vote, and he'll be on that international team. Technically won't affect Devin Booker's chances, but the fan vote goes for a while. We can still have an impact as Suns fans, and we should. Devin Booker deserves your vote. Dillon Brooks deserves your vote. Let's try to figure out how we can at least make it better than him being 15th on the damn list for the Western Conference. We deserve better. Speaking of deserving better, yeah, we're going to give 3 minutes to the Arizona Cardinals here today. I couldn't dedicate a show to whatever that crap was. This is the most embarrassing Arizona Cardinals team we've ever experienced. I've talked about this on this program. We've gone through it. It is an embarrassment. The Arizona Cardinals are Jose Alvarado level of embarrassment when it comes to football this year. They gave up 30 points again. They look disgusting. The Bengals defense was ranked 32nd in points per game, yards per game, and yards per play. Their defense is a sieve. I could have probably rushed for 25 yards against the Bengals defense. And instead, midway through the third quarter, and this is thanks to Teo Mackey over at the Arizona Republic, 7 points for the Cardinals, 89 yards midway through the third quarter. Well, but look, they performed in the fourth. That's because you got to call friggin' Jacoby Brissett the garbage man, because in garbage time, that's where he'll stack up his stats. But this is not a team that needs that should celebrate anything. To Mars's point, the O-lineman catching a pass and running it for 20 yards was pretty embarrassing. That is on my list of most embarrassing Cardinals moments of all time. I attended a game in the 90s, and it was the Chiefs versus the Cardinals. Or at least I watched it. I think I was at this game. I don't remember. May have just been watching it. But Steve Bono, a quarterback that if you think of a Greek statue just carved out of marble, I mean, he wasn't physically like that, but just a marble statue, that was how Steve Bono moved. And he had a 75-yard naked bootleg for a touchdown. That play yesterday is right up there with that in terms of most embarrassing plays and moments as an Arizona Cardinal fan. This team is so pathetic that Jonathan Gannon has completely lost this group. And when you look at it, a week from today on Black Monday for the NFL, if Jonathan Gannon's name isn't on that list and his entire coaching staff, the Arizona Cardinals and Michael Bidwill have basically stuck it to every one of you Cardinals fans. All of us will have essentially been given the middle finger. Because this season was disgusting. A loss on Sunday would give them 14 losses, the most that they've ever had in Arizona. It's unpalatable. I had to apologize to Noah and the Cardinals crew for professionally subjecting them to those football games, for the fact that they actually have to watch that. Hello, I will give love to Trey McBride, who set the record for most receptions ever by a tight end, for most receptions by a Cardinal ever. And I will give Michael Wilson, the other single bright spot of this season, who has emerged and shown just how good of a receiver he is and how underused he's been the last few years in Petzing's offense. They're good. Jacoby Brissett, there's a reason that he's a career backup. And I applaud him. He's good enough to stem the tide. He's not great, and he's not going to win you football games. But this defense is why this team's lost everything. And you've got a defensive head coach. It's pretty damn pathetic that that's where you're at. Again, Teo Mackey, another great stat. The first team since 2016 and the 49ers to have an 8-game losing streak with 280 points allowed. Only 10 other teams in NFL history have had such a stretch. This isn't just historically bad for the Cardinals. This is historically bad in the NFL. I wish I could get suspended from watching Cardinals games at this point. I've thought about throwing a punch at myself just so I don't have to watch it. It's brutal. And thank God we get put out of our misery on Saturday. Because this is going to be a long offseason of searching for a head coach and a quarterback. And I'm not sure next season gets much better because of it. I dedicated far too much time to the Arizona Cardinals today. I put in more effort on that than they've put in the last 8 weeks. They have one win since the middle of September. One. They haven't won on a Sunday since the middle of December. Since the middle of September. God, I wish it was the middle of December. We would have had at least one win here. They've got a shot to be top 3 draft pick wise. If they lose, they are guaranteed a top 5 draft pick. I don't know whether to be excited by that or terrified at what might happen because of it. We're going to find out what the fate of the coaching staff is a week from today, though. Fate of this show is that it's over. A big thank you to Noah behind the Mac. You can follow the show at PHNX_sports. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, be an antihero. Don't be a villain. And also, Don't sucker punch somebody when you know that they can't hit you back. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.